Hello, this is Mr. Waters, and here's another example for page 654 on hyperbolas, and in this one we'll be analyzing the hyperbola. Now, analyzing a hyperbola, remember, that means, number one, we've got to figure out where the center is. We've got to figure out where the transverse axis is, the equation of the transverse axis. We've got to figure out where the vertices are. We've got to figure out where the foci are, and there's two vertices and there's two focal points. And we've got to figure out where the equation of the asymptotes. And then lastly, we have to, of course, graph the equation. Okay, so what we're going to be given in this case is the equation. And the equation for this one is 2x squared plus y squared plus 4x plus 4y minus 4 is equal to 0. Now, oops, wait a minute, that's not correct, because since it's a hyperbola, this one I happen to know is actually supposed to be minus. Okay, 2x squared minus y squared. Now we know that's a hyperbola because one of the quadratic terms, one of the squared parts is positive, is added, the other one is negative. In this case it's the minus y squared, but it's going to be a hyperbola because of that. Okay, so it's not in vertex form, so we've got to complete the square. We start out by gathering all the x terms. That's 2x squared plus 4x. And then here's the y squared terms. Like this. And that's going to be plus 4y. And then we're going to clear the constant and have that be equal to 4 over here. Okay, so let me see. So we're going to complete the square on the x squared part first. We're going to in order to make the completing the square easier, we want to factor out that coefficient of 2 away from both x parts, both x terms. So it's going to be 2 times x squared plus 2x. So we divided both by 2, right? And then leave that a blank there to complete the square into. Now we see here that the coefficient on the y squared is -1. Now we actually want to factor out that -1 also to be able to complete the square on it, because we want the coefficient to be +1. So I'm going to factor out a -1 and then a parentheses, y squared, -1 divided by here, -1 divided by there is going to give us minus 4y. I'm going to put in the blank, equals to 4 still. Okay, now what do we have to add over into the x parentheses in order to complete the square? Well, we've got to add 1, because half of 2 is 1 and 1 squared is 1. But what we're really adding is 1 2 times. So 2 times 1 is 2. So we add 2 over here. Now for the y's, we're gonna take half of -4, which is -2, and square it, so that's going to be +4. But since the coefficient out front is -1, -1 times 4 is -4, we're actually going to add -4. Okay? Okay, so this is now 2 times x plus 1 quantity squared minus -1 times y minus 2 quantity squared, right? And then that's going to be equal to 4 plus -4 cancel each other out. That's just going to be equal to 2. Now, so we're still not quite there. We want 1 to be onto the right side there, so we're going to divide both sides by 2. Divide 2, divide 2, and that's going to give us, oh how convenient, it's going to give us x plus 1 quantity squared over 1 minus y minus 2 quantity squared over 2 is equal to 1. And so there we go. Now that's the equation that we're going to be graphing. Now we can see, we can begin to fill in the information here. Okay, we can see that since the x part is first, since it's x minus y, that's going to be horizontal, right? Where the a value is equal to 1, and then the b value is the square root of 2, because b squared is 2, so that's going to be rad 2. Okay? We can calculate the c value, because we're going to have c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared, so that's going to be 1 plus 2, which is equal to 3. So c squared is equal to 3. So c, the focal distance, plus or minus rad 3, because we solve for c over there in the equation. Okay, so we can now begin to fill in some information up here. I'll do it in blue. Okay, the center we can see from the formula, from the equation, is negative 1, 2. Okay. Now, so we can see that right off. When we begin to graph it, we'll be able to get the other information. So I'll very carefully make a little XY plane down here. Just like that. Okay, so we graph the center at negative 1, 2. Right? And then it's a horizontal, so I'm going to put the vertex points to the left and to the right. The a value is 1, so I'm going to go 1 to the left for the a value, or 1 to the right for the a value, 1 to the left for the other vertex point. Okay, we'll label those coordinates when we're done graphing. We can see here that now we can see that the transverse axis goes right through those vertex points in the center, right through 2. So we can see that the equation of the transverse axis has to be the horizontal line y equals 2. The vertex points are right there at 0, 2, and negative 2, 2. So 0, 2, and negative 2, 2 are the vertex points. Okay? Now, the focal points are going to be rad 3 to the left and to the right of the center. So starting from here, starting at that center point there, one focus is going to be rad 3 to the right, and the other one, so that's going to be plus rad 3, and the other focus is going to be rad 3 to the left, minus rad 3. All right? Okay, now rad 3 is about 1.7, so we're going to count from here over about 1.7, which is about there, and then to the left from the center point, 1.7 to the left, right about there. Okay? Now that is going to allow us to put in, that's going to give us the focal points there. Now let me erase these little marks here so that it's a little less confusing. There we go. Okay. Now since we're counting rad 3 to the right, the coordinates of this focal point are going to be, may have put that a little bit too far to the right, didn't I? It's probably actually right about here. Since it's 1.7 to the right, it's probably closer to about there. In any case, the coordinates are going to be -1 plus rad 3, comma 2. And then the coordinates of that one are going to be -1 minus rad 3, 2. So those are the coordinates of those two focal points, okay? All right, and so we'll put those up here. Okay, I'm gonna need more space here with our parentheses, so let me erase those. So this is one of them is -1 minus rad 3, comma 2. The other one is -1 plus rad 3, comma 2. So those are the two focal points, okay? And now the asymptotes, and we're almost done with the graphing here. The asymptotes we get, since it's horizontal, the slope anyway is going to be given by y is equal to positive or negative b over a. So b being rad 2, which is about, as you know, about 1.4, a being 1. So to get one of the asymptotes, I'll do these in red, and I'll do these in blue, I think. I'm going to start at the center point, go over about 1 point, go over 1 to the, which takes us to the vertex, and then up about 1.4, and then over 1, and then down about 1.4. That's going to allow us to put our asymptotes in, and now we can go ahead and graph it. Like this. Okay, very much like that. So there is our graph. Now the only thing we haven't done is so the graph is done, we don't have the equations of the asymptotes. Well, if the asymptotes, if the center of the hyperbola was at 0, 0, the asymptote equations would be, and I'll write it, I'm going to scroll down a little bit here. The asymptotes would be y is equal to plus or minus, it was rad 2 over 1x, okay? But the whole graph has been shifted according to where the center is, -1, 2. 1 to the left, 2 up. So that means we're going to have to modify our hyperbola equations. They will be y equals to, here's the plus 1, rad 2 over 1, which is just rad 2, x plus 1 to shift it to the right, or sorry, shift it to the left 1, and then plus 2 to shift it up. Okay, now that's going to be our equation here. The other one is going to be y is equal to negative rad 2 over 1, x plus 1, shifted the basic equation here, shifted to the left 1, and then up 2. So we can simplify this. This is rad 2x plus rad 2 plus 2. So and then this is equal to negative rad 2 x minus rad 2 plus 2. So those are our two asymptote equations, and I'll write them right up here. Y is equal to positive rad 2x plus rad 2 plus 2, and then y is equal to negative rad 2x plus rad 2 plus, or, oopsie, that should be minus rad 2x plus 2, because we had the minus rad 2 down here. Okay, and that's the end. Alrighty, so we've got the equation here. We've got the we've got the information about the graph where we analyzed it up there, and that should about do it for us. Thank you so much.